Hello my dear dreamers, welcome back to Sleepy Sorcerer Stories, your sanctuary for tales woven from starlight and shadow. Tonight, leave the weight of the waking world behind as we journey together into a realm where dreams take wing and ancient guardians keep watch over the sleeping cosmos. This is a story of fading songs and gentle courage, of a journey taken not with hurried footsteps, but with the soft measured pace of one who walks through dreams themselves. There exists, beyond the borders of ordinary sleep, a realm known as Whisperwind. It is a place that cannot be found on any map drawn by mortal hands, nor reached by any road that winds through the waking world. Whisperwind is a land that exists in the delicate space between consciousness and slumber, where the very air seems to hum with the essence of peaceful dreams. Here the breeze does not merely blow, it sings. Each gust carries with it fragments of lullabies sung to children centuries ago, melodies that have been refined and perfected through countless generations until they became something more than music, something approaching pure comfort itself. The landscape of Whisperwind is one of extraordinary gentleness. Rolling hills covered in grass so soft it feels like silk, beneath bare feet stretch as far as the eye can see, their contours smooth and welcoming as a mother's embrace. The grass itself seems to possess a subtle luminescence, as though each blade contains within it a tiny spark of starlight, creating a faint, ever-present glow that bathes everything in a warm, amber radiance. Trees grow here that exist nowhere else in creation, their trunks twisted into graceful spirals, their branches spreading wide like welcoming arms. The leaves of these trees are translucent, catching the light and transforming it into cascading rainbows that dance across the ground below. When the wind moves through their branches, they produce a sound like wind chimes, a gentle tinkling that seems to speak directly to the quietest part of the soul. The sky above Whisperwind is a marvel in itself. During what passes for day in this eternal twilight realm, the heavens are painted in shades of soft lavender and pale rose, colours that seem to exist specifically to soothe tired eyes. But it is at night that Whisperwind truly reveals its wonder. The stars here are not the distant cold points of light that shine in our world. Instead they glow with the warmth and softness of lanterns, each one a gentle beacon hanging in the velvet darkness. They do not merely twinkle, they pulse slowly, rhythmically, like the beating of a calm and steady heart. Their light does not pierce the darkness, but rather suffuses it, transforming night into something that feels less like an absence of day and more like a presence all its own, a soft blanket of comfort drawn across the world. Throughout this peaceful land, crystalline streams wind their way through the valleys, their waters so clear and still that they perfectly mirror the sky above, creating the illusion that one could step into them and find oneself walking among the stars. The sound these streams make as they flow over smooth stones is not the rushing tumult of earthly rivers, but rather a gentle murmur, a constant soothing whisper that speaks of endless patience and the slow, inevitable journey of all things toward their proper place. Along the banks of these streams grow flowers that bloom only in moonlight, their petals unfolding with such gradual grace that one could watch for hours and barely perceive the movement. Yet at dawn they are fully open, releasing fragrances that smell of vanilla and honey and something else, something that cannot quite be named, but that calls to mind the scent of a beloved childhood blanket or the aroma of a grandmother's kitchen. The creatures that make their home in Whisperwind are as gentle as the land itself. Rabbits with fur that shifts in colour from silver to deep blue, depending on the angle of the light, hop lazily through the meadows, unafraid and unhurried. Deer with antlers that seem to be carved from moonstone itself move through the forest in small groups, their eyes deep and knowing, as though they carry within them awareness of things that mortal minds struggle to comprehend. Birds with plumage in shades of violet and gold and the deepest midnight blue sing songs that have no beginning and no end, melodies that loop back upon themselves in ways that feel both infinitely complex and perfectly simple. Even the insects here contribute to the symphony, fireflies that pulse in perfect synchronization, creating waves of light that roll across the meadows like gentle luminous tides, and crickets whose chirping forms intricate rhythms that underlie all the other sounds of the realm, providing a foundation upon which the entire auditory landscape rests. But Whisperwind is more than just a place of beauty and tranquility. It is a realm with purpose, a land that exists to maintain a specific and vital function in the greater architecture of dreams. For you see, all the peace and comfort of this place, all its gentle beauty and soothing sounds, all of it flows from a single source, sustained by a single ancient guardian, whose presence shapes and maintains everything that makes Whisperwind what it is. And once every 100 years, this guardian enters into a state of such deep rest that even the usual profound slumber of Whisperwind seems shallow by comparison. During these times, the guardian's dreams become so vivid, so all-encompassing that they begin to shape reality itself in ways both wonderful and potentially catastrophic. This guardian is known as the Slumbering Griffin, and it is through the griffin's continuous gentle dreaming that Whisperwind maintains its perfect balance, its endless tranquility. The griffin dreams of peace, and peace spreads across the land. The griffin dreams of comfort, and comfort settles over all who dwell here like a soft blanket. The griffin dreams of safety, and all fear departs from the hearts of every living creature within the realm's borders. But every century, the griffin's slumber deepens beyond the usual depths, and its dreams become strange, taking on qualities and characteristics that can disturb the delicate equilibrium that normally prevails. When this centennial deep sleep begins, subtle changes start to ripple through Whisperwind. The songs carried by the wind become fainter, less distinct, as though heard through layers of cotton. The glow of the stars dims ever so slightly, their pulses becoming irregular, uncertain. The streams begin to slow in their courses, and the flowers take longer to bloom, their petals remaining closed well past the usual hour. The creatures of the realm grow restless, sensing something amiss in the fabric of their world, and those few mortals who have found their way to Whisperwind through the paths of particularly vivid dreams wake with a sense of unease, feeling as though they have forgotten something important, though they cannot say what. At the heart of all these changes is a sound, or rather, the fading of a sound. For the slumbering griffin, even in its deepest rest, produces a celestial hum that resonates throughout all of Whisperwind and beyond. This hum is known as the griffin's song, and it is unlike any music produced by instrument or voice. It exists on the very edge of hearing, more a feeling than a sound, a vibration that moves through bone and spirit rather than air. The griffin's song is what keeps the stars in their courses, what ensures the streams continue to flow, what maintains the boundary between dream and nightmare. It is the fundamental frequency upon which all other harmonies of Whisperwind are built, the bass note that gives depth and substance to every other sound in the realm. But now, as the griffin enters its centennial deep sleep, the song is fading. The hum that has sustained Whisperwind for 100 years is growing quieter, more distant, like a voice calling from increasingly far away. And as it fades, so too does the stability of the realm begin to waver. The balance that has been maintained for so long is tipping, tilting, threatening to spill into something darker. For if the griffin's song should fall completely silent, if that sustaining vibration should cease entirely, then Whisperwind itself might fade, dissolving like mist beneath the morning sun. And with it would go not just this realm of peace and comfort, but something far more essential. For Whisperwind serves as a way station for all dreams, a place through which every sleeping vision must pass on its journey from the unconscious mind to full flowering. Without Whisperwind, without the griffin's song to guide them, dreams would become lost, wandering endlessly through dark spaces with no light to guide them home. The consequences would ripple outward, touching not just this mystical realm, but every world where creatures close their eyes and surrender to sleep. And so as the griffin's song fades to barely a whisper, as the stars dim and the land grows quiet, a desperate need arises. Someone must journey into the deepest reaches of dream itself. Someone must find the slumbering griffin and restore its song before the silence becomes complete and irrevocable. Someone must brave the Dreaming Vale and face whatever shadows have crept into the Griffin's visions, disturbing its rest and threatening to extinguish the light that has guided dreams for countless ages. At the very centre of Whisperwind, nestled in a valley where 3 streams converge and the grass grows tallest and softest, lies the village of Starhaven. It is a small community, home to perhaps 36 souls who have chosen to make their lives in this realm between realms, or who have found themselves drawn here by paths they cannot fully remember walking. The houses of Starhaven are built from a pale wood that seems to glow from within, their roofs covered in tiles that shift colour slowly throughout the day, moving through the spectrum from deep indigo to soft pink and back again. Smoke rises lazily from chimneys, carrying the scent of herbs and spices that grow nowhere in the waking world, and the streets are paved with smooth stones that are always pleasantly warm beneath one's feet, no matter the weather. The people of Starhaven live quiet lives, tending gardens that grow vegetables and fruits of extraordinary flavour, keeping flocks of birds whose feathers are sought after for their ability to bring pleasant dreams when placed beneath a pillow, and crafting various goods from the unique materials that Whisperwind provides. They are, for the most part, content, living in harmony with their strange and beautiful home, respecting the ancient pacts and traditions that govern life in this liminal space. But even in their contentment, they know that their peace depends entirely on the continued well-being of the Slumbering Griffin, and they watch always for signs of disturbance in the song that sustains them. In the oldest part of Starhaven, where the houses are built around an enormous tree whose trunk is wider than 5 men standing with arms outstretched could encompass, lives the Dreamcaller. The title is both a name and a description of function, for the Dreamcaller is the one person in all of Starhaven who possesses the ability to perceive and interpret the deeper currents of dream that flow through Whisperwind. The Dreamcaller serves as a bridge between the conscious world and the realm of pure vision, able to send their awareness out across the borders between sleep and waking, gathering knowledge from sources that remain forever mysterious to others. The current Dreamcaller is ancient beyond measure, though their exact age is unknown even to themselves. They appear as a figure of indeterminate gender, with hair that flows like liquid silver down past their shoulders, skin marked, with intricate patterns that seem to shift and change when not looked at directly, and eyes that hold depths that suggest they have seen the birth and death of stars. The Dreamcaller dresses in robes woven from thread that catches light in impossible ways, creating the illusion that they are always partially transparent, always slightly not quite there, as though at any moment they might fade away entirely and reveal themselves to have been merely a particularly vivid dream all along. For days now, perhaps weeks, time moves strangely in Whisperwind and grows stranger still as the Griffin's song fades. The Dreamcaller has been troubled. They have felt disturbances in the fabric of dream, strange ripples and eddies that suggest turbulence in places that should be calm. They have seen signs and omens in the way the stars pulse, in the patterns formed by falling leaves, in the shapes that appear in the foam where streams meet and mingle. They have consulted the ancient texts kept in the great tree's hollow heart, scrolls written in languages that predate memory, seeking understanding of what is happening and what, if anything, can be done about it. And then, on a night when the stars seemed particularly dim and the Griffin's song had faded to barely a whisper, the Dreamcaller fell into a vision more powerful than any they had experienced in centuries. They stood in their small chamber at the base of the great tree, preparing to sleep, when suddenly the world around them seemed to dissolve. The walls became transparent, then vanished entirely. The floor beneath their feet transformed into a surface that reflected a night sky full of unfamiliar constellations, and before them, suspended in a void that was neither space nor time, but something that existed outside both, they saw the source of the disturbance. The Slumbering Griffin lay in its ancient nest of silver branches, far away in a place that could not be reached by walking or flying, but only by the strange, sideways movement that is possible only in dreams. The griffin was enormous, larger than the greatest cathedral ever built, its body covered in feathers that flowed and shifted like the northern lights, each plume containing within it entire galaxies of light. Its head, noble and proud even in deepest sleep, rested upon paws that ended in talons of pure crystal. Its wings, folded against its sides, were so vast that when fully spread they could have blotted out the sky of a dozen worlds. But something was wrong. The griffin's breathing, usually as steady and reliable as the turning of the seasons, had become irregular, stuttering. Its body occasionally twitched and shuddered as though it were struggling against bonds only it could perceive. And most troubling of all, the space around the griffin had become filled with shadows, dark shapes that seemed to be neither fully present nor entirely absent, existing in some uncomfortable middle ground. These shadows moved with a kind of predatory patience, circling the griffin slowly, drawing ever closer, threatening to engulf it entirely in their lightless embrace. As the Dreamcaller watched, frozen in their vision, they understood with crystalline clarity what was happening. The griffin's dreams, instead of flowing freely through the usual channels, had become trapped, caught in a labyrinth of the griffin's own unconscious creation. Lost in this maze of its own making, the griffin's sleeping mind had conjured these shadow things as a manifestation of its confusion and distress. And the longer the griffin remained caught in this labyrinth, the more substantial the shadows would become, until they were no longer mere phantoms, but real and dangerous entities that could do genuine harm. If this process continued unchecked, if the griffin could not be freed from its nightmare labyrinth, then the shadows would consume it entirely. The griffin's song would fall permanently silent. Whisperwind would fade, and the stars themselves would fall into a slumber from which there might be no waking. But even as the Dreamcaller perceived the magnitude of the crisis, they also saw faintly, like the first hint of dawn on a dark horizon, a potential solution. The vision showed them a path narrow and winding that led from Starhaven deep into the Dreaming Vale, that mysterious landscape where the substance of dreams takes on physical form. Following this path would be dangerous, requiring one to navigate not just physical obstacles, but metaphysical ones as well, places where the very laws of reality became suggestions rather than rules. But at the end of this path lay the griffin's nest, and the possibility of reaching the ancient guardian before the shadows consumed it completely. More than this, the vision revealed what would be needed to save the griffin. The shadows could not be fought with strength or banished with simple magic. They were too deeply intertwined with the griffin's own dreaming mind, too much a part of what the griffin itself had created. Instead, what was needed was a restoration of harmony, a reweaving of the broken threads of the griffin's song. 3 specific elements would need to be gathered and brought to the griffin's nest. 3 harmonies that, when properly combined, could cut through the confusion of the labyrinth and remind the griffin of its true nature and purpose. The vision showed these harmonies as abstract concepts made tangible. The harmony of stillness, which existed in perfect quiet and could calm even the most turbulent mind. The harmony of memory, which contained within it the accumulated wisdom and experience of all that had come before. And the harmony of hope, which looked always forward, always toward the possibility of better things to come. Each of these harmonies existed somewhere within the Dreaming Vale, hidden in places of significance, waiting to be found by one brave enough or foolish enough to venture into that mercurial realm. But the vision also made clear that this task could not be accomplished by the Dreamcaller themselves. The work of maintaining the link between Starhaven and the greater currents of dream required their constant presence. They could not abandon their post, could not risk the village being cut adrift from its moorings in the Sea of Sleep. No, this quest would require someone else, someone with a calm heart and steady spirit, someone capable of moving through the strange landscapes of pure dream without losing themselves, without being overwhelmed by the surreal and often contradictory nature of that realm. As the vision faded and the Dreamcaller found themselves once again standing in their simple chamber, The ancient guardian of Starhaven knew what must be done. They dressed quickly, wrapping themselves in their robes of light-catching thread, and stepped out into the dim streets of the village. Moving with purpose, they made their way through Starhaven, their passage noted by the few villagers still awake at this late hour, who watched with expressions of concern, sensing that something significant was unfolding. The Dreamcaller walked to the edge of the village to a place where the boundary between Whisperwind and other realms grew thin. Here the air shimmered slightly, as though one were looking at the world through a veil of the finest silk. The Dreamcaller raised their hands and began to speak in a voice that resonated with harmonics no human throat should be able to produce, words in a language that predated speech itself. And as they spoke, the shimmer in the air intensified, becoming more pronounced until finally it coalesced into something resembling a doorway, a portal through which another place could be glimpsed. Through this doorway, the Dreamcaller looked out into the countless worlds of dream and sleep, searching, seeking a spirit that matched the requirements laid out in their vision. They needed someone calm but courageous, someone gentle but determined, someone capable of facing the unknown without being paralyzed by fear. They searched through dream after dream, vision after vision, until finally they found what they were looking for, a dreaming consciousness that possessed exactly the qualities needed for this impossible task. You, the listener, the one whose sleeping mind had wandered through the pathways of dream and found itself, if only for a moment, touching the borders of Whisperwind. The Dreamcaller saw in your dreaming spirit the perfect balance of attributes required. They saw a heart that could remain calm in chaos, a mind that could accept the impossible without shattering, a will that could persist in the face of obstacles that would turn others back. And so the Dreamcaller reached out across the boundaries of dream and consciousness, extending an invitation, a summons, a plea for help. In your sleep, wherever your body rested in whatever world you called home, you felt a pull, a gentle but insistent tugging at the very centre of your being. A voice, kind and ancient and impossibly tired, spoke directly to your dreaming mind. It told you of Whisperwind and the Slumbering Griffin, of the fading song and the gathering shadows. It spoke of the desperate need, of the quest that must be undertaken, of the harmonies that must be found. And it asked, with a courtesy that somehow made refusal impossible, if you would be willing to undertake this journey, to step through the veil and into a realm of pure dream, to save not just one mystical land, but the very concept of peaceful sleep itself. And because you were dreaming, because in that state of sleep, the boundaries of the possible seemed less rigid, and the call to adventure felt natural rather than terrifying, you found yourself answering yes. The moment the agreement formed in your sleeping mind, you felt a shift, a sense of movement without motion, and suddenly you were no longer in your bed, no longer in the world you knew. You stood instead at the edge of Starhaven, face to face with the Dreamcaller, who looked at you with eyes that held both profound relief and equally profound sadness, for they knew they were sending you into danger, but they also knew there was no other choice. The Dreamcaller leads you through the quiet streets of Starhaven, speaking in low tones about what you must do and where you must go. The village, already dim as the griffin song continues to fade, seems to grow even quieter around you, as though holding its breath in anticipation of what is to come. The few villagers you pass stop what they are doing to watch, their faces grave with understanding. They know what your presence means, know that their continued existence depends on the success of your mission. Some bow their heads in respect, others press small tokens into your hands as you pass, a smooth riverstone, a feather from a dream-bringing bird, a small vial of water from the convergence of streams, gifts given not for their practical value but as symbols of hope and encouragement. At the far edge of Starhaven, where the houses give way to open meadow, and the landscape begins to shift into something less defined, more dreamlike, the Dreamcaller stops. Before you stretches the Dreaming Vale, and even from here you can see that it is unlike anything you have encountered before. The air itself seems different, thicker somehow, as though each breath you take is pulling in not just oxygen but possibility itself. The colours are more vivid and yet somehow less real, existing in shades that have no names and that your waking mind would struggle to remember or describe. The very laws of physics seem negotiable here, suggestions rather than rules, and you can see things in the distance that should not be possible. Waterfalls that flow upward, trees growing with their roots in the sky, paths that loop back upon themselves in ways that create impossible geometric shapes. The Dreamcaller places a hand on your shoulder, and you feel a warmth spread through you, a gentle tingling that seems to settle somewhere in the centre of your chest. This is a blessing, a gift of protection that will help you maintain your sense of self as you venture deeper into the Dreaming Vale, where the boundaries of identity become fluid, and it is all too easy to forget who and what you are. With this blessing in place, you will remain anchored to your essential nature, unable to be completely overwhelmed by the strangeness you are about to encounter. You have been told what you must seek: 3 harmonies, scattered throughout the Vale, hidden in places of power and significance. The harmony of stillness, found where all motion ceases and perfect quiet reigns. The harmony of memory, kept by those who remember all that has ever been dreamed. The harmony of hope, nestled in a place of light and warmth, sustained by the belief in better tomorrows. Find these 3 harmonies, bring them to the Griffin's nest, and use them to restore the song that is failing. It sounds simple when stated thus, but you know, with the deep knowledge that comes from dreams themselves, that the task will be anything but easy. The Dreamcaller steps back, and you take your first steps into the Dreaming Vale. The transition is not abrupt, but rather gradual, like wading into warm water. With each step, the world around you becomes more fluid, more responsive to thought and emotion. The grass beneath your feet changes texture with each footfall, sometimes soft as down, sometimes firm as packed earth, sometimes somewhere in between. The sky above shifts through colours in patterns that seem to respond to your mood, darkening when you feel uncertain, brightening when confidence surges through you. After walking for what might be minutes or hours, time has become unreliable here, stretching and compressing in ways that make it impossible to track. You encounter the first of the Vale's many wonders. Before you, floating perhaps 20 feet above the ground, is an island, not suspended by any visible means, not held aloft by magic that you can perceive, but simply there, hovering in apparent defiance of gravity. The island is perhaps 30 feet across, its surface covered in the most extraordinarily soft-looking moss you have ever seen. The moss glows with a faint bioluminescence, pulsing gently in shades of seafoam green and pale blue. Vines hang down from the edges of the floating island, swaying in a breeze you cannot feel, and as you watch, flowers bloom on these vines, opening and closing in slow rhythmic patterns. You discover that reaching the floating island is simply a matter of intention. When you think about being up there, when you imagine yourself standing on that soft moss, the distance seems to compress. Without quite walking, without quite flying, you find yourself stepping onto the island's surface, and the moss is even softer than it appeared, yielding beneath your feet with a gentle springiness that makes each step feel like walking on clouds. From this new vantage point, you can see more of the Dreaming Vale stretching out in all directions, a landscape of impossible beauty and equally impossible geometry. There are more floating islands scattered across the sky, dozens of them, each unique. Some are covered in forests of miniature trees, perfect in every detail, but scaled down to a fraction of normal size. Others are bare rock, smooth and dark, reflecting the light from the ever-shifting sky. Still others appear to be composed entirely of crystal, refracting light into rainbow patterns that dance across the ground far below. You realise that these islands are like thoughts made solid, each one representing some aspect of dream consciousness, some particular quality or characteristic of the sleeping mind given physical form. You make your way from island to island, sometimes walking across bridges of solidified air that appear when needed and vanish when you have passed, sometimes simply willing yourself from one to the next and finding that desire alone is sufficient to transport you. And as you travel, you begin to notice details that had escaped your initial observation. The islands are connected by more than just proximity. Thin gossamer threads link them, visible only when light strikes them at just the right angle, creating a vast web that spans the entire visible extent of the Vale. These threads hum when touched, each producing a different note, and you realise with a start that this is part of the Griffin's song, or what remains of it. The network through which the song's resonance is meant to flow, now reduced to these fainter, barely perceptible vibrations. Descending from the islands, you find yourself in a region of the Vale where pools of water dot the landscape. But these are not ordinary pools. Each one is perfectly still, its surface like polished glass, and instead of reflecting the sky above, each pool shows something different. Leaning over one, you see not your own face but a memory, your first day of school, viewed as though through a window into the past. Another pool shows a place you have never been but that feels somehow familiar, a beach at sunset with purple sand and waves that sparkle with phosphorescence. Yet another displays scenes from a life you have never lived, a different version of yourself making different choices, walking a path you did not take. These are the pools of memory water. The Dreamcaller had mentioned them. Every dream ever dreamed leaves a trace, an impression, and these pools collect those impressions, displaying them for anyone brave or curious enough to look. You could spend years here, viewing dreams from across time and space, witnessing the sleeping visions of people long dead and creatures not yet born. But you have a purpose, a mission, and so you tear yourself away from the mesmerising displays and continue onward, though you make note of this place, for you suspect that the harmony of memory might be found somewhere nearby. As you walk, you become aware of sound beyond the faint humming of the connection threads. At first it is so quiet that you think you might be imagining it, but as you continue, it grows gradually more distinct. It is a ringing, a chiming, as though hundreds of small bells were being gently struck. Following the sound, you come upon a grove of trees unlike any you have seen before. Their trunks are slender and silver, their bark smooth and cool to the touch. But instead of leaves, their branches bear wind chimes, not crafted by any hand but grown naturally, as though they were fruit. The chimes are made from the same silver material as the tree trunks, and they hang in clusters, moving in the gentle breeze that seems to blow perpetually through this part of the Vale. As the wind moves through the grove, the chimes sing. Each individual chime produces a single pure note, but together, moving in complex patterns dictated by the flow of air through the branches, they create melodies of staggering beauty and complexity. Some of these melodies are sad, speaking of loss and longing. Others are joyful, full of the exuberance of new beginnings. Still others are contemplative, invoking the quiet satisfaction of a task completed or a lesson learned. You realise that these too are part of the structure that supports the Griffin's song, physical manifestations of emotion and experience that feed into the greater harmony that sustains Whisperwind. You sit for a while beneath the chiming trees, letting their music wash over you, feeling it resonate not just in your ears but in your bones, in the very fabric of your being. There is something restorative about this music, something that eases tension you did not know you were carrying, and soothes worries that have been lurking at the edges of your consciousness. You feel yourself relaxing, your breathing slowing and deepening, your mind clearing of its extraneous thoughts and concerns. This is the effect of the chimes, their purpose, to calm and centre, to remind the listener of peace and beauty, to counteract the stress and fear that can accumulate in both waking and dreaming life. When you finally rise and continue your journey, you feel refreshed, more capable of facing whatever challenges lie ahead. The path forward, though path is perhaps too definite a word for the constantly shifting routes available in the Dreaming Vale, leads you into a region where the light grows softer, more diffuse. The landscape here is less distinct, forms blurring at the edges, colours bleeding into one another like watercolours on damp paper. This is a place where dreams are still forming, not yet fully realised, and as you move through it you catch glimpses of nascent visions taking shape. A child's dream of flying manifests as a flock of soap bubbles that drift upward, each containing a miniature figure with outstretched arms. An artist's dream of the perfect painting appears as a canvas that constantly rewrites itself, images forming and dissolving too quickly to fully perceive. A scholar's dream of understanding appears as a book whose pages turn on their own, text appearing and disappearing, always just on the verge of revealing some profound truth. It is in this region of forming dreams that you encounter the first of your companions on this journey, though you do not initially realise that company has arrived. You first notice the sound, a faint melody, familiar yet somehow different, as though you are hearing it through water or from very far away. Looking around for the source, you spot movement in the branches of a solitary tree, growing from a small island of solid ground in this sea of uncertain forms. Perched on a branch is a bird, though unlike any bird you have seen in your waking life. It is roughly the size of a crow, its plumage a soft grey-brown that shifts to deep indigo in certain lights. Its eyes are remarkably intelligent, holding a depth of awareness that seems almost human. But what is most striking about this bird is its voice. As you watch, it opens its beak and sings, and the song that emerges is not the simple call of an ordinary bird, but rather a complex melody, one that you recognise with a start as a fragment of the Griffin's song. This is a lyrebird of the dreaming. The Dreamcaller had spoken of them. These remarkable creatures possess the ability to mimic any sound they have ever heard, and this one, it seems, has heard the Griffin's song during better times, when the ancient Guardian's dreams flowed freely and the harmonies remained strong. Now, as the song fades, the lyrebird is trying to remember it, to reproduce it, but the effort is clearly difficult. The melody starts strong but falters, breaks apart, reforms in a slightly different configuration. The bird tries again, beginning from a different point in the song, but again the melody fragments and falls apart before reaching completion. You approach slowly, careful not to startle the bird. As you draw near, the lyrebird cocks its head, regarding you with those unsettlingly intelligent eyes. It seems to recognise something in you, some quality or purpose that marks you as important, as relevant to its own frustrated attempts to remember the fading song. The bird begins to sing again, but this time it watches you as it does so, as though seeking confirmation or correction, trying to gauge whether the melody it is producing matches what you know to be true. You find yourself humming along without quite meaning to, adding your voice to the lyrebird's song, and something remarkable happens. Where your voice and the bird's voice combine, the melody stabilizes, becomes more solid, more complete. The fragments that the lyrebird had been struggling to connect suddenly snap together, forming a longer continuous passage of the Griffin's song. The bird seems delighted by this discovery, its feathers ruffling with what you interpret as pleasure, and it begins to sing with renewed confidence, following your lead, learning from the harmonies you provide. When the song ends, the lyrebird performs a little hop on its branch, then takes flight, circling your head once before landing on your shoulder. Its claws are surprisingly gentle, gripping just firmly enough to maintain balance without causing any discomfort. You understand without words being spoken that the bird has chosen to accompany you, to serve as a guide and companion on your quest. The lyrebird knows the Dreaming Vale better than any newcomer could, and more than that, it carries within its memory fragments of what you seek to restore. Together, you will have a better chance of success than either could achieve alone. With the lyrebird on your shoulder, you continue deeper into the Dreaming Vale. The bird occasionally sings, small snippets of melody that serve as reassurance, as encouragement, as reminders of what you are working to achieve. And you find that the landscape responds to the bird's presence. Paths become slightly clearer. Obstacles that seemed insurmountable reveal ways around them. It is as though the Vale itself recognises the Lyrebird as a native, a creature that belongs here, and extends a measure of courtesy and cooperation that it might not offer to you alone. You travel through regions of ever-increasing strangeness. You pass through a forest where the trees are made of solidified shadows, their trunks and branches absorbing light rather than reflecting it, creating pools of darkness so absolute that stepping into them feels like being swallowed by the void itself. You cross a meadow where the grass is composed of thin fibres of glass that chime musically when brushed by the wind, their collective sound creating a background harmony that feels both alien and hauntingly beautiful. You skirt the edge of a lake whose waters flow upward instead of settling, forming a dome of liquid that hangs suspended in the air, fish swimming through its substance in lazy, contented circles. It is at the shore of this inverted lake that you encounter your second companion. At first you see only a glow, a soft luminescence that moves through the air with a gentle bobbing motion. As it draws closer, you can make out more details. It is a moth, but far larger than any moth should be. Its wingspan easily 3 feet across. Its wings are translucent, like stained glass windows, and they glow from within with a pale, silvery light that pulses in a slow, steady rhythm. The patterns on its wings are intricate beyond description, constantly shifting and rearranging themselves, forming symbols and sigils that seem to hold meaning just beyond the edge of comprehension. This is a Moonmoth Guardian, and it is a creature of pure instinct and ancient wisdom. It does not think in the way that humans think, does not reason or plan, but instead follows currents and flows that exist beneath the level of conscious thought. The Moonmoth can sense the deeper patterns of the Dreaming Vale, can perceive the ley lines of dream energy that crisscross this realm, can navigate by means that have nothing to do with sight or sound or any of the traditional senses. And it has come to you because it too senses your purpose, recognises in you someone who seeks to restore what has been broken, to heal what has been wounded. The Moonmoth circles you 3 times, its wings leaving trails of faint phosphorescence in the air, and with each circuit you feel something settling over you like a cloak. It is a blessing similar to what the Dreamcaller bestowed, but different in quality, where the Dreamcaller's gift anchored you to yourself, helped you maintain your identity. The Moonmoth's gift is something else. It attunes you to the Vale itself, helps you begin to perceive the world around you the way the Moonmoth does, as a network of flowing energies and intersecting patterns. You begin to see superimposed over the visual landscape, lines of light that connect significant points, currents of power that flow from one location to another, nodes where multiple streams of dream energy converge and intensify. The Moonmoth settles into a position slightly ahead of you, and to your left, hovering at eye level, its glow providing illumination in the increasingly strange landscape through which you travel. The Lyrebird on your shoulder seems pleased by this new addition to your small company, letting out a melodious trill that the Moonmoth responds to with a gentle pulse of brighter light. Your companions are communicating in their own way, and you sense that they are coordinating, working together to guide you along the optimal path toward your goals. Following the Moonmoth's lead, with the Lyrebird occasionally offering melodic encouragement, you navigate through portions of the Vale that would have left you hopelessly lost without their guidance. You pass through a region where up and down have lost their meaning, where gravity seems to pull in different directions simultaneously, and only by following the Moonmoth's glowing form can you maintain any sense of orientation. You traverse a section where time flows at different rates in different locations, where you can see plants growing from seed to full flower to withered decay in the space of seconds, while just a few feet away everything remains frozen in perfect stillness. And then you come to a clearing, a space of relative calm and normalcy amid the surreal landscape. The grass here is simply grass, green and ordinary. The sky above is a conventional blue, with white clouds drifting lazily past. In the centre of this clearing, as though waiting specifically for you, stands a creature of such delicate beauty that for a moment you can only stare. It is a fawn, young and small, with legs that seem almost too slender to support even its modest weight. But this is no ordinary deer. Its coat is the colour of sable, so dark it is almost black but shot through with highlights of deep midnight blue that shimmer when it moves. Its eyes are larger than they should be, luminous and knowing, containing depths that speak of ancient wisdom trapped in an innocent form. And most remarkably, the fawn seems to be composed not entirely of solid matter, but partially of starlight. You can see, if you look carefully, pinpoints of light scattered throughout its body, as though constellations had been woven into its very substance. When it breathes, these points of light pulse and shift, creating patterns that echo the movements of real stars across the night sky. This is the Sable Fawn, born from starlight during a particularly potent dream someone once had about purity and innocence, and the desire to return to a simpler, kinder state of being. The fawn exists at the intersection of several powerful concepts: youth, guidance, gentleness, and the light that pierces darkness. It is a creature of the deepest dream spaces, rarely seen, sought after by those who wish to find the hidden paths that connect one part of the Dreaming Vale to another. The fawn approaches you without fear, its movements graceful beyond description. It comes close enough that you can reach out and touch it, and when you do, your hand encounters something that is simultaneously solid and incorporeal, warm and cool, present and distant. The texture defies description, feeling like velvet and mist and silk all at once. The fawn looks up at you, meeting your eyes with its own luminous gaze, and in that look, you understand that it has come to lead you along dream paths, routes through the veil that exist in the spaces between spaces, shortcuts through the impossible geography of this realm. The fawn turns and begins to walk, not toward any visible destination, but rather at an angle to reality itself. As you follow, you discover that where the fawn steps, paths appear, not paths that were always there and hidden, but paths that come into existence in response to the fawn's passage, created by the sheer force of its will and nature. These S lead through landscapes that shift and change with each step, through corridors of compressed space where a single stride can cover miles, through moments of suspended time where you seem to hang forever in the space between one heartbeat and the next. Your three companions, the Lyrebird on your shoulder, the Moonmoth glowing ahead, and the Sable Fawn leading the way, work in harmony, each contributing their unique abilities to keep you on course. The fawn finds the paths, the Moonmoth perceives the energy flows and steers you toward locations of power. The Lyrebird offers fragments of the Griffin's song as waypoints, reminders of what you seek and why. Together they form a support system that makes the impossible journey possible, that transforms what should be a hopeless quest into something that might, just might, succeed. Led by the fawn, you traverse distances that could not be measured in conventional terms. You pass through a canyon whose walls are made of frozen music, where you can see the solidified shapes of symphonies and ballads and simple lullabies preserved in stone. You cross a bridge woven from the hair of 1,000 dreamers, each strand still connected to its source, creating a structure that hums with the sleeping thoughts of countless minds. You climb a mountain that is also a sleeping giant, its features visible in the contours of stone and earth, its breathing the source of the winds that blow across this part of the vale. And finally, after a journey that might have lasted hours or days or weeks, time has become completely meaningless here, measured not in minutes or seconds, but in experiences and transformations. You arrive at a place that radiates a palpable sense of importance. The air here feels different, heavier with significance. The colours are more saturated, more real somehow, despite the dreamlike nature of everything in the vale. And ahead of you, at the end of the path the Sable Fawn has revealed, you see an entrance. It is a massive doorway, carved into the face of a cliff that rises impossibly high, its peak lost in clouds that might be actual weather phenomena, or might be the physical manifestation of confused thoughts. The doorway is framed by pillars of crystal that catch and refract light in ways that create rainbows within rainbows, patterns of colour so complex they hurt to look at directly. And beyond the doorway you can see the beginning of what the Dreamcaller described, the Hall of Echoing Dreams, where fragments of the Griffin's visions float like leaves on a gentle current, waiting to be gathered by one brave enough to enter. The Sable Fawn stops at the threshold and looks back at you, its starlit eyes conveying something that might be encouragement, might be warning, might be farewell. It will not enter the hall, that is not its purpose or its place, but it has brought you here, guided you through the tangled paths of the Dreaming Vale, and now the next stage of your journey must be undertaken with only the Lyrebird and the Moonmoth for company. You reach out once more to touch the fawn's impossibly soft head, and it leans into your hand for just a moment before stepping back, bowing slightly, and then turning to fade back into the dreamscape from which it came. Taking a deep breath, though you are not entirely certain you need to breathe in this place, you step through the doorway and into the Hall of Echoing Dreams. The transition is immediate and overwhelming. The space inside is vast beyond measure, a cavern so enormous that its far walls are lost in distance and shadow. The ceiling arches high overhead, its surface composed entirely of crystal that captures and holds light, creating the impression of standing beneath a sky full of frozen stars. But it is not the size of the hall that strikes you most forcefully. It is what fills it. Floating throughout the space, drifting on currents of air you cannot feel, are fragments. They appear at first glance to be feathers, each one as long as your forearm, shimmering with opalescent light. But as you watch them more carefully, you realize they are more than simple feathers. Each one contains within it an entire scene, a complete vision, a fragment of dream that the Slumbering Griffin has experienced over the long centuries of its existence. Some show landscapes of impossible beauty, forests where every tree blooms with flowers of light, oceans that flow upward into the sky, cities built from pure geometry, where buildings exist in more dimensions than the eye can properly perceive. Others contain narratives, stories that play out in miniature within the confines of the feather, tales of heroes and monsters, of love and loss, of triumph and tragedy. The feathers drift in lazy patterns, occasionally bumping into one another with soft chiming sounds, each collision producing a musical note that hangs in the air before slowly fading. The accumulated sound of hundreds of these collisions creates an ambient melody, a background music that is constantly changing, never repeating, always on the verge of resolving into something recognizable, but never quite getting there. This is another fragment of the Griffin's song you realize, the melody that should be unifying and organizing these dream fragments, giving them structure and purpose, but which has broken apart into this scattered, disjointed arrangement. The lyrebird on your shoulder becomes agitated, ruffling its feathers and letting out a series of calls that range from curious chirps to distressed cries. It can sense what you have already intuited, that somewhere among these countless drifting feathers are the three specific dreams, the three fragments that contain the harmonies you seek, the harmony of stillness, the harmony of memory, the harmony of hope. But finding them among this multitude will require more than simply looking. It will require understanding, perception, that goes beyond the merely visual. The moonmoth leaves your side, its glow brightening as it begins to circle through the hall, weaving between the drifting feathers. You watch as its light plays across each fragment it passes, and you begin to notice something. The feathers react differently to the moonmoth's presence depending on their content. Some grow brighter, their internal visions becoming more vivid and distinct. Others dim slightly, as though shy of scrutiny, and still others pulse in synchronization with the moonmoth's own rhythmic glow, resonating with whatever frequency the moth creature embodies. You realize that the moonmoth is searching, using its ability to perceive the deeper patterns and energies to identify which of the countless dream fragments might be the ones you seek. And as you watch its systematic exploration of the hall, you begin to develop your own sense of what you are looking for. The harmony of stillness would be found in a dream of perfect calm, a vision of absolute peace. The harmony of memory would be contained in a fragment that somehow encompasses all that has come before, that holds within it awareness of the long chain of events and experiences that have led to this moment. The harmony of hope would shine with a particular kind of light, warm and welcoming, full of the promise of better things to come. You begin to move through the hall yourself, reaching out occasionally to touch the drifting feathers, and when you do, you are granted brief glimpses into the dreams they contain. One shows a garden where every plant grows in perfect health, tended by invisible hands, never troubled by drought or disease or the depredations of insects. Another displays a great gathering of creatures from 1,000 different worlds, all assembled in harmony, communicating without words in a space where species and origin matter not at all. A third contains a single image, endlessly repeated, a door, closed but not locked, with warm light visible through the crack beneath it, suggesting safety and welcome just on the other side. Hours pass, or perhaps no time passes at all. The nature of time in the hall is even more uncertain than in the rest of the Dreaming Vale. You might have been searching for minutes, or for years. But gradually, through patient exploration and the guidance of your 2 remaining companions, you begin to identify possibilities. The moonmoth's glow settles on 3 specific feathers that float in different regions of the hall, marking them as significant, as different from the multitude surrounding them. And when you make your way to each of these marked fragments, you understand why they have been chosen. The first floats in a quiet corner of the hall, removed from the main currents of air that move most of the feathers about. It hangs almost perfectly still, barely moving at all, and when you approach it, you feel an immediate sense of calm washing over you. The vision contained within this feather is simple but profound. A lake, its surface utterly undisturbed, reflecting a night sky so clear and star-filled that the reflection seems deeper than the original. In this reflection, you can see not just stars but the spaces between stars, the vast quiet voids where nothing exists and nothing disturbs the perfect silence. Looking into this feather dream, you feel your own breathing slow, your heartbeat settling into a rhythm so steady it becomes almost imperceptible. All the small anxieties and concerns that have been lurking at the edges of your consciousness simply stop. They do not vanish exactly, but rather they cease to matter, becoming as distant and irrelevant as the light of a single star viewed from across the universe. This is the harmony of stillness, and you recognize it with absolute certainty. This dream embodies perfect quietude, the kind of deep peace that exists in the spaces between thoughts, in the moments between heartbeats. It is the calm at the centre of all storms, the silence from which all sound emerges, into which all sound returns. You reach out carefully and grasp the feather, and the moment your fingers close around it, you feel something settling into you, becoming part of you. The harmony of stillness is not just an object you carry, but a state you embody, a quality that will remain with you for as long as you hold this fragment of the griffin's dream. The second feather floats near the centre of the hall, caught in a complex swirl of air currents that keep it moving in an intricate pattern, a path that loops and curves through 3 dimensions in ways that create a shape of unusual mathematical beauty. This feather glows with a warm amber light, and the vision it contains is not singular, but multiple, layered, complex beyond immediate understanding. You see all at once 1,000 different scenes, each one a memory drawn from the griffin's long existence. There is the moment when the griffin first opened its eyes, newly born from the conjunction of starlight and dream. There is the first time it sang, its voice uncertain and weak, but carrying within it the seeds of what would become the great song. There are memories of other realms it has visited, other dreamers it has encountered, other crises it has weathered and overcome. But more than these individual memories, the feather contains something deeper, an awareness of continuity, of the unbroken chain that connects past to present to future. It holds within it the understanding that nothing exists in isolation, that every moment is built upon all the moments that preceded it, that the present is always the child of history. Looking into this dream, you feel yourself connected to that chain, aware suddenly of your own place in the long sequence of events that has led to this specific moment, this specific quest. You see the choices made by the Dreamcaller, by the villagers of Starhaven, by countless others whose decisions created the circumstances that brought you here. And you understand in a way that goes beyond intellectual knowledge, that what you do now will ripple forward, affecting the future in ways you cannot predict, but which will nonetheless be real and significant. This is the harmony of memory, and when you take it in hand, you feel the weight of all those accumulated moments settling onto your shoulders. It is not an uncomfortable weight, not a burden that oppresses, but rather a grounding force, something that anchors you firmly to the reality of your existence and your purpose. With the harmony of stillness quieting your anxieties and the harmony of memory connecting you to the long chain of cause and effect, you feel more centered, more capable, more ready to face whatever challenges remain. The third feather floats high in the hall near the crystalline ceiling, and reaching it requires climbing. But the hall provides as dreamscapes do, and you find that handholds appear where needed, that the crystal walls offer purchase to fingers and feet, that the climb, while long, is never truly dangerous. The Moonmoth guides you, its light marking the optimal path, and the Lyrebird offers encouragement with soft trills and fragments of melody that seem to make the climbing easier, as though the music itself is supporting your weight. When you finally reach the high feather and grasp it, you understand immediately why it had to be placed where it was. This dream cannot be confined to the lower reaches of the hall, cannot be allowed to drift among the other, darker or more complex fragments. It needs to be elevated, set apart, given a position from which it can shine down upon everything below. The vision within this feather is of a sunrise, but not an ordinary sunrise. This is the first sunrise, the original light that pierced the primordial darkness at the very beginning of all things. It is the light that announced the arrival of possibility, of potential, of the future stretching out full of promise and opportunity. Looking into this dream, you feel hope flooding through you, not the naive optimism that ignores difficulties, but the deep, resilient conviction that no matter how dark things become, light will always return. That no matter how difficult the present moment, better days lie ahead. That no matter how dire the circumstances, there remains always the possibility of positive change, of healing, of restoration. This hope is not passive, not a mere wish or idle daydream, but rather an active force, a motivation that propels one forward even when the path is unclear and the destination uncertain. This is the harmony of hope, and when you add it to the other two fragments you already carry, something extraordinary happens. The three feathers begin to resonate with one another, their individual lights blending and intensifying. The harmony of stillness provides a foundation of calm. The harmony of memory adds depth and context. The harmony of hope crowns them both with forward-looking energy. Together, they create something more than the sum of their parts, a chord that, while not yet the full Griffin song, contains within it all the essential elements needed to restore what has been broken. The Lyrebird on your shoulder responds to this chord with excitement, beginning to sing a melody that incorporates and builds upon the harmonies you now carry. The Moonmoth's glow brightens to near blinding intensity, and throughout the hall of echoing dreams, the other feathers begin to react, their own lights pulsing in sympathy, their drifting patterns becoming more organised, more purposeful. You have not yet completed your task, but you have taken a crucial step toward completion, and the Dreaming Vale itself seems to recognise and acknowledge your progress. With the three harmonies secure, you begin the descent from the high reaches of the hall. The climb down is faster than the climb up, the crystal walls seeming to almost carry you downward rather than merely providing support. When you reach the floor of the hall once more, you find that the entrance through which you arrived has changed. it no longer opens onto the landscape of the Dreaming Vale through which you travelled to get here. Instead, it reveals a different path, a direct route that leads deeper into the realm, toward the heart of Dream itself, toward the place where the Slumbering Griffin rests in its nest of silver branches. This is the nature of the Dreaming Vale. Paths change depending on where you need to go, and having gathered what you came to find, you are now ready for the next stage of the journey. The route to the Griffin's nest has opened because you are prepared to walk it, because you carry what will be needed when you arrive. There is no going back now, no opportunity to reconsider or delay. The way forward is the only way, and so forward you must go. The path from the Hall of Echoing Dreams to the Griffin's nest leads through a landscape that grows progressively more surreal, more detached from anything resembling normal reality. The ground beneath your feet becomes less certain, sometimes feeling solid and sometimes seeming to be merely the suggestion of solidity, a surface that exists because you expect it to, rather than because it possesses any genuine substance. The sky overhead cycles through impossible colours, shades that exist somewhere between violet and green, tones that seem to be made of emotion rather than light. The air itself takes on textures, in some places feeling thin and insubstantial, in others thick enough that pushing through it requires genuine effort. You pass through regions where the building blocks of dreams are visible in their raw, unformed state. Here float clouds of pure possibility, nebulous masses that contain within them the potential to become anything, joyful dreams or nightmares, profound visions or simple comforting scenes of domestic tranquility. The form they will eventually take depends entirely on the mind that shapes them, the dreamer who pulls them down and moulds them into the specific content of their sleeping visions. Watching these potential clouds drift past, you gain a deeper understanding of the Griffin's role. The ancient guardian does not create dreams, but rather provides the framework within which dreams can form, the song that guides these raw possibilities toward coherence rather than chaos. The Moonmoth remains close, its glow now serving a protective function as well as an illuminating one. You notice that where its light falls, the more threatening aspects of the landscape seem to soften, to become less oppressive. Shadows that had been reaching toward you with something like intent retreat when the Moonmoth's glow touches them. Sounds that had been building toward cacophony, quiet to more manageable levels when the moth creature draws near. It is using its connection to the deep patterns of the veil to shield you, to clear a safe passage through regions that might otherwise overwhelm your mind with their strangeness. The lyrebird has grown quiet, no longer singing but instead gripping your shoulder tightly, its head swiveling constantly as it watches the landscape around you with clear wariness. You sense that you are entering territory that even this experienced navigator of dream finds unsettling, places where the normal rules and patterns of the Dreaming Vale break down into something more primal, more dangerous. The bird's silence is itself a form of communication, a warning that you should proceed with caution, that the final stage of your journey will require all your focus and determination. Time passes, or does not pass. The distinction has become meaningless. You walk through crystallized moments, frozen instances plucked from the flow of time and preserved like insects in amber. In one, you see a child's hand reaching for a toy, the motion captured mid-reach, neither progressing nor reversing. In another, a flower blooms and wilts simultaneously, both states existing at once in a superposition that hurts the mind to perceive. You pass through these temporal anomalies carefully, aware that spending too long contemplating them might trap you in a similar state, caught between 1 second and the next with no way to move forward or back. And then, after a journey that has felt both endless and instantaneous, you arrive. The landscape opens up into a vast clearing, a space of relative stability amid the chaos that surrounds it. And there, at the centre of this clearing, rising up like a monument to an age before time, is the Griffin's nest. It is built entirely from branches of silver, but not silver as it exists in the mortal world. This is dream silver, a substance that glows with its own internal light, that seems to exist in a state between solid and liquid, flowing and frozen. The branches are woven together in patterns of impossible complexity, creating a structure that is simultaneously nest and palace, cradle and cathedral. The nest is enormous, easily large enough to contain a mansion, and it rises in tiers and levels, with the highest point reaching so far above that it disappears into clouds that roil and shift with colours that have no names. But it is not the nest that holds your attention for long. It is the occupant of the nest, the being for whom this entire quest has been undertaken. The slumbering griffin lies curled in the heart of its silver nest, and even in deep sleep, even diminished by the shadows that gather around it, the griffin radiates a majesty that takes your breath away. The creature is vast, so large that your mind struggles to fully comprehend its scale. Its body must be at least 500 feet in length from its noble head to the tip of its leonine tail. Its form combines elements of eagle and lion in ways that seem both impossible and inevitable, as though these were the only shapes that could properly contain the essence of what the griffin is. The front half of its body is avian, covered in feathers that flow and ripple like the surface of a wind-touched lake. But these are no ordinary feathers. Each one contains within it a fragment of the night sky, complete with stars and nebulae and swirling galaxies. When the griffin breathes, those slow laboured breaths that indicate the depth of its slumber, the feathers shift and the stars within them move, creating the impression that you are watching the birth and death of entire solar systems with each inhalation and exhalation. The griffin's head is that of a great raptor, its beak curved and sharp, capable no doubt of rending stone and steel, though you sense it has never been used for such purposes. The eyes are closed, hidden beneath lids that themselves seem to contain entire landscapes of dream. The crest of feathers that rises from the griffin's head flows backward like a mane, each individual plume glowing with soft light. The rear half of the griffin's body is leonine, its legs powerful and muscular, ending in paws equipped with talons of pure crystal. Its tail, thick and long, is wrapped around its body protectively, the tip occasionally twitching in response to whatever dreams currently flow through the griffin's sleeping mind. But most magnificent of all are the wings. The griffin's wings are folded against its sides, but even folded they are staggering in their scope and beauty. Each wing must span at least 1,000 feet when fully extended, and they are composed of feathers that exist in a state between matter and energy, between substance and light. The primary feathers at the wingtips contain entire constellations, while the smaller feathers closer to the body hold individual stars. If the griffin were to spread these wings and take flight, though you cannot imagine where or how such a creature would fly, it would blot out the sky of any world it passed over, transforming day into night with a single wing beat. All of this magnificence, all of this cosmic beauty and power, and yet something is clearly desperately wrong. The griffin's breathing, while steady, is laboured, each breath taking longer than it should, as though the simple act of drawing air has become difficult, requiring effort that should not be necessary. The stars within the griffin's feathers flicker and dim, going dark one by one like candles in a growing wind. The colours in the creature's plumage, which should be vibrant and alive, have become muted, faded, as though seen through a veil of dust or fog. And then there are the shadows. They are everywhere, clustered thickest around the griffin's head and chest, but spreading throughout the nest, coating the silver branches with something that is neither liquid nor solid, but which devours light wherever it touches. These shadows move with disturbing sentience, shifting and flowing, reaching toward the griffin with what can only be described as hunger. They are manifestations of the labyrinth in which the griffin's dreams have become trapped, physical representations of confusion and lost direction, and the terror that comes from being unable to find one's way home. As you watch, a section of shadow reaches out and touches one of the griffin's feathers. Immediately, the stars within that feather go dark, winking out like lights being switched off one by one, The feather itself begins to fade, losing cohesion, threatening to dissolve entirely. The griffin shudders in its sleep, a tremor that runs through its entire massive body, and lets out a sound. Not quite a cry, not quite a moan, but something between the two, a wordless expression of distress that reverberates through the clearing and sends ripples through the fabric of reality itself. The sound galvanizes you into action. You have come too far, endured too much to stand idle while the griffin succumbs to the shadows. Gripping the three harmonies you carry, the feathers that contain stillness, memory and hope, you approach the nest. The silver branches provide easy purchase despite their flowing semi-liquid nature, and you climb toward the griffin, toward the heart of the nest where the ancient guardian lies. The shadows sense your approach. They turn their attention from the griffin to you, and you feel the weight of their regard like a physical pressure. They move toward you, reaching out with tendrils that seem to suck warmth from the air, that leave trails of absolute cold in their wake. But the moon moth interposes itself, its glow flaring bright enough to force the shadows back, creating a protective bubble of light within which you can continue your ascent. The lyrebird adds its voice, singing fragments of the griffin's song, and where the bird's melody touches the shadows, they recoil, as though burned by something they can neither understand nor resist. Your companions are buying you time, holding back the darkness so that you can complete your task. You must not waste this opportunity. Moving as quickly as the uncertain footing allows, you make your way to the top of the nest, to a relatively clear space not far from the griffin's great head. Here, working by instinct more than planning, you begin to arrange the three harmonies. The harmony of stillness you place first, setting it down near the griffin's head where the shadows cluster thickest. The moment the feather touches the silver branches, a wave of calm emanates from it, spreading outward in concentric circles. The effect on the shadows is immediate and dramatic. Their frantic, hungry movements slow, then stop entirely. They do not disappear, not yet, but they cease their attacks, becoming frozen in place, rendered temporarily harmless by the overwhelming peace that radiates from the harmony of stillness. The griffin's laboured breathing eases slightly, becoming fractionally more regular, more relaxed. The harmony of memory you place to one side, equidistant between the griffin's head and heart. As this feather settles into position, something remarkable begins to happen. The shadows, frozen by the harmony of stillness, start to change. They become less opaque, more transparent, and through their thinning substance, images begin to appear. These are the griffin's memories, the long chain of experiences that connect its first moment of awareness to this present crisis. The shadows have not been simply attacking the griffin, they have been trapping its memories, isolating each one from the others, cutting the connections that give context and meaning to experience. But now, as the harmony of memory exerts its influence, those connections are being restored. Individual memories begin to link back together, forming chains and networks. The griffin's long existence is being reintegrated, its past returned to it, and with that past comes understanding. The shadows continue to thin, losing substance as the memories they were trapping flow free, returning to their proper place in the griffin's vast mind. And finally, you place the harmony of hope at the griffin's heart, directly above where you imagine that cosmic organ must lie, pumping dream stuff instead of blood through the creature's impossible biology. This last feather glows with particular intensity, its warm light spreading across the griffin's chest, sinking through layers of feather and flesh to reach the core of the being beneath. And this is what has been most lacking, what the griffin has most needed. Not just calm to settle its confusion, not just memory to restore what has been lost, but hope, the fundamental conviction that this trial can be overcome, that the future holds more than just darkness and dissolution. The three harmonies, properly positioned, begin to resonate with one another just as they did in the Hall of Echoing Dreams, but here the effect is amplified 1,000-fold. They pulse in synchronization, their lights blending and intensifying, and from their interaction a new sound begins to emerge. It starts as barely a whisper, a vibration at the very edge of perception, but it grows steadily stronger, more distinct. It is the Griffin's song, not fully restored, not yet returned to its previous strength, but present again, audible again, real again. The Lyrebird on your shoulder recognises the song immediately and joins its voice to the growing melody. The bird has been waiting for this moment, has been holding fragments of the song in its memory for precisely this purpose, and now it releases them in a flood of pure music. The Lyrebird's contribution provides structure, offering the melodic framework upon which the harmonies can build, transforming the simple resonance between the three feathers into something more complex, more complete. And you find to your surprise that you know what to do next. The knowledge comes not from any instruction the Dreamcaller gave you, not from any understanding you possessed before beginning this journey, but rather from the journey itself, from the experiences you have had and the transformations you have undergone. You open your mouth and you begin to hum. Your voice, rough and uncertain at first, adds another layer to the song. You do not try to match the Lyrebird's complexity or the ethereal quality of the resonance between the harmonies. Instead, you offer something simpler, more fundamental, a baseline, a foundation, the steady ground note upon which all other harmonies can rest. Your humming is wordless, more a vibration than a melody, but it is exactly what the song needs. It provides weight, substance, turning the beautiful but fragile music into something solid, something that can withstand the turbulence of dream and maintain its integrity. As the three elements combine, the harmonies resonating, the Lyrebird singing, and you humming the foundation notes, the song grows steadily stronger. The effect on the Griffin is profound and immediate. The creature's breathing, which had been so laboured, suddenly steadies and deepens, becoming strong and regular. The stars within its feathers, which had been dying one by one, begin to reignite, flaring back to life with renewed brilliance. The colours in its plumage intensify, washing away the faded, muted tones and replacing them with hues so vivid they seem almost aggressive in their vibrancy. And the shadows, the terrible, hungry shadows that had been threatening to consume everything, begin to dissolve. They do not flee or retreat, they simply cease to exist, breaking apart into fragments that themselves break apart into smaller fragments, dissipating like smoke in a strong wind until there is nothing left of them but a fading memory of darkness. The labyrinth in which the Griffin's dreams had been trapped collapses, its walls crumbling as the restored song provides the guidance needed to navigate free of its confusing passages. The Griffin's mind, freed from the maze of its own confused creation, begins to settle back into its natural patterns, its dreams flowing once more along the channels and pathways that have served it well for countless centuries. You continue to hum, maintaining your part in the restoration, and as you do, you notice something extraordinary happening. The Griffin's song, now that it has been re-established, is beginning to spread. It flows out from the nest like ripples on a pond, moving through the Dreaming Vale in waves of harmony and light. Everywhere the song touches, changes occur. The raw, chaotic dream stuff you pass through on your way here begins to organise itself, forming into more coherent structures. The temporal anomalies start to resolve, frozen moments unlocking and flowing forward once more. The threatening shadows that had lurked at the edges of the path retreat before the advancing song driven back into whatever deep places spawned them. The effect spreads further, reaching beyond the immediate vicinity of the nest. In the hall of echoing dreams, the countless drifting feathers begin to move in coordinated patterns, no longer colliding randomly but instead weaving through the air in complex dances, their accumulated chiming creating harmonies that support and enhance the Griffin's song. In the grove of chiming trees, the natural wind chimes begin to ring with renewed vigour, their music swelling to levels not heard in weeks or months. The floating islands throughout the vale stabilise, the gossamer threads that connect them forming with restored energy, once again serving as conduits for the song's resonance. And in distant Starhaven, the the Dreamcaller feels the change. The ancient guardian opens eyes that have been closed in worried meditation and looks up at the sky. The stars above the village, which had grown so dim, are brightening once more, their pulses becoming strong and regular. The streams that had been slowing in their courses begin to flow with renewed enthusiasm. The flowers that had been reluctant to bloom suddenly open all at once, releasing fragrances that fill the air with sweetness. The villagers emerge from their houses, drawn by the palpable sense of change, and they look at one another with expressions of wonder and relief, understanding without needing to be told that the crisis has passed, that the griffin has been saved, that their world is secure once more. The moonmoth, which has been maintaining its protective shield throughout your work, begins to pulse with a rhythm that matches the griffin's song perfectly. Its glow reaches an intensity that transforms it from a gentle nightlight into something approaching a beacon, visible for vast distances across the Dreaming Vale. Creatures throughout the realm, dream beasts and thought forms and manifested hopes and fears, all turn toward this light, drawn by its promise of restored order and returning peace. As the song continues to strengthen, the griffin itself begins to change in ways that go beyond the mere restoration of its feathers and the rekindling of its internal stars. The creature's immense body, which had been rigid with distress, begins to relax. Muscles that had been tense for far too long release their grip. The griffin's head shifts slightly, settling into a more comfortable position. Its tail, which had been wrapped so tightly around its body, loosens, extending slightly, the tip no longer twitching with agitation, but instead lying still and peaceful. The wings, those magnificent expanses of star-filled feathers, stir slightly, adjusting their position against the griffin's flanks, and with each tiny movement, galaxies shift and reform within the plumage. And then, as you continue to hum, and the lyrebird continues to sing, and the harmonies continue to resonate, something happens that you had not anticipated, that the Dreamcaller had not mentioned, that perhaps no one could have predicted. The griffin's eyes open. They open slowly, gradually, as though the creature is waking from the deepest sleep imaginable. The lids, which had seemed so solid and impenetrable, lift to reveal eyes that are not eyes in any conventional sense. They are windows, portals, openings into infinite space. Looking into the griffin's eyes is like looking into the heart of creation itself. You see swirling nebulae and birthing stars. You see black holes that devour light, and white holes that spew it forth. You see dimensions beyond the normal three-folding and unfolding in patterns that the mind cannot quite grasp. The griffin's eyes contain multitudes, encompass eternities, and yet somehow also feel warm, kind, benevolent. The great head turns slowly and with utmost care until the griffin is looking directly at you. The weight of that gaze is almost overwhelming. You feel seen in a way you have never been seen before, known in a way that goes beyond mere recognition. The griffin perceives not just your physical form, but your essence, the core of who and what you are, all your hopes and fears and dreams and memories laid bare beneath that infinite regard. And yet there is no judgment in that gaze, no criticism or condemnation, only gratitude, profound and wordless, expressed through a look that conveys more than volumes of speech could communicate. The griffin does not speak. You sense it is not a creature given to verbal communication, that its thoughts are too vast and too strange to be contained in anything so limiting as language. But it does something else. It breathes, a single deep breath that draws in air from across the entire Dreaming Vale, and when it exhales, the breath carries with it a gift. The exhalation washes over you like a warm breeze, and you feel something settling into your very being, becoming part of you in a way that can never be undone or removed. It is a fragment of the griffin's song, but more than that, it is a connection, a permanent link between your spirit and the ancient guardian's essence. From this moment forward, wherever you are, whatever world or realm you inhabit, whether waking or dreaming, you will carry this fragment with you. In moments of distress, you will be able to draw upon it, letting it calm and center you. In times of confusion, it will provide clarity. When hope seems lost, it will remind you that dawn always follows darkness, that restoration is always possible, that even the deepest wounds can be healed given time and care and courage. The griffin holds your gaze for another long moment, and in that moment, you understand something profound. The crisis was not simply about the griffin's survival or the preservation of Whisperwind. It was about the relationship between dreamer and dream, between the conscious mind and the visions that arise from the unconscious depths. The griffin had been trapped in its own labyrinth because that is the nature of dreams sometimes. They can become confusing, overwhelming, frightening. But with help, with support from outside the dreaming mind, those labyrinths can be navigated, those confusions can be resolved. What you have done here is not just save an ancient guardian. You have demonstrated and reinforced a fundamental truth, that no one, no matter how powerful or wise, is meant to face their inner darkness alone. Satisfied that you understand, the griffin closes its eyes once more, but this time the closing is different. There is no distress in it, no sense of the creature being pulled under against its will. Instead, it is a peaceful return to slumber, a conscious choice to continue resting because rest is what is needed, not because the griffin is trapped or helpless. The song continues, stronger than ever, flowing out from the nest in continuous waves of harmony. But now the griffin's conscious attention has withdrawn, returning to the deep places of dream, where it maintains the frameworks and structures that give shape to sleeping visions across countless worlds and realities. You remain in the nest for a while longer, making certain that the restoration is complete, that the harmonies are properly anchored and will continue to function. The lyrebird eventually ceases its singing, though it remains alert, ready to add its voice again if needed. The moonmoth settles onto one of the silver branches, its glow dimming to a more modest level now that the crisis has passed. And you let your humming trail off, the foundation note no longer required now that the song has fully re-established itself and is sustaining its own momentum. The three harmonies remain where you place them, stillness near the griffin's head, memory at the midpoint, hope at the heart. They have become part of the nest now, integrated into its structure, providing permanent support for the griffin's song. They will remain here, serving their purpose for as long as they are needed, which may well be forever. You feel a momentary pang at leaving them behind, these fragments that you carried through such strange and difficult terrain, but you also know that this is right, that they have found their proper home and proper purpose. With the griffin settled into healthy sleep and the song restored, there is nothing more for you to do here. The moon moth stirs, lifting off from its perch, and you understand that it is time to leave. You climb down from the nest, your movements slow and slightly awkward, as exhaustion begins to catch up with you now that the urgent necessity has passed. The lyrebird remains on your shoulder, its grip gentle but firm, and together with the moon moth, you leave the clearing, walking back the way you came. But the landscape has changed. The journey that was so difficult and strange on the way to the griffin's nest is now peaceful, almost pleasant. The path is clear and well defined, the colours, while still dreamlike, are no longer aggressive or uncomfortable. The air has a consistent texture, neither too thick nor too thin. The restored song is doing its work, organising and harmonising the Dreaming Vale, returning it to the balanced state it is meant to maintain. The journey back takes far less time than the journey to the nest, or perhaps time is simply moving differently now, flowing more smoothly with the restored rhythm of the griffin's song to guide it. You pass back through the hall of echoing dreams, where the feathers now drift in beautiful coordinated patterns, creating a constantly shifting display that is mesmerizing to watch but no longer overwhelming. The chiming sounds they make when they touch have resolved into actual music now, an ambient symphony that supports and enhances the griffin's song. You cross back through the regions of forming dreams, where the clouds of raw possibility are now being drawn into more stable configurations, shaped by the guiding influence of the restored song into dreams of greater coherence and clarity. You pass the grove of chiming trees, which welcome you with a musical salute, their natural wind chimes ringing in harmonies that seem specifically composed to honour your passage. You traverse the meadow of glass grass, which now produces sounds of pure beauty rather than the unsettling tones it made before. The pools of memory water are clearer now, their surfaces more reflective, the dreams and visions they display more distinct and easier to interpret. The floating islands have stabilised completely, hanging in the air with perfect confidence, connected by their gossamer threads that now glow with renewed energy, clearly visible even in full daylight. Every aspect of the Dreaming Vale has been touched by the restoration, improved and enhanced by the return of the Griffin's song to its proper strength and clarity. And then, emerging from the strangeness of the Vale, you find yourself back at the border where you first entered, where the landscape of dream gives way to the more comprehensible reality of Whisperwind proper. The Dreamcaller is waiting for you, standing at the exact spot where they sent you off on this impossible quest. The ancient Guardian's face, normally so controlled and serene, shows clear emotion now, relief so profound it borders on joy, gratitude so deep it cannot be adequately expressed, respect for what you have accomplished that transforms the way they look at you. No words are spoken, none are needed. The Dreamcaller reaches out and places both hands on your shoulders, and you feel a final blessing settling over you, different from the others you have received. This one is not for protection or guidance. It is simply acknowledgement, a formal recognition of what you have done, a marking of your spirit that will remain with you always, identifying you as one who ventured into the deepest dreams and returned victorious, as one who saved not just a realm, but the very concept of peaceful sleep itself. Behind you, the Moonmoth performs one final service. It circles your head 3 times, its light tracing patterns in the air that linger for a moment before fading, and with each circle you feel memories settling into more accessible places in your mind. The journey you have undertaken, the things you have seen and experienced, they could so easily be lost, dismissed as merely a particularly vivid dream upon waking. But the Moonmoth's gift ensures that you will remember, that the knowledge and understanding you have gained will remain with you, that this experience will be something you can draw upon throughout your life. The Lyrebird, your constant companion through so much of the journey, hops from your shoulder to the Dreamcaller's outstretched arm. The bird turns to look at you one final time, its head cocked in that peculiarly knowing way, and sings a brief melodic phrase, a fragment of the Griffin's song, the same fragment that now lives within your own spirit. It is a goodbye, but also a promise. You and this remarkable creature share something now, a connection forged through shared purpose and mutual support, and that connection will endure even after you leave this realm and return to your own world. The Sable Fawn appears from the landscape of Whisperwind, materializing from starlight and hope. It approaches silently, those luminous eyes fixed on you, and bows its head in a gesture of respect and recognition. You reach out once more to touch the impossibly soft coat, feeling the stars shift beneath your fingers, and the fawn presses briefly against your hand before turning and bounding away, disappearing back into the gentle hills and glowing meadows from which it came. The Dreamcaller gestures and you turn to follow the indicated direction. There, just ahead, you can see Starhaven, the village at the heart of Whisperwind. But it is transformed from when you last saw it. The houses glow more brightly, their pale wood seeming lit from within by a light that speaks of safety and home and belonging. The roofs shift through their colour changes with renewed vitality, moving through the spectrum in smooth, confident transitions. Smoke rises from chimneys in perfect vertical columns, carrying scents that make you think of comfort and nourishment, and the simple pleasures of domestic life. And above the village the sky is alive with stars. Not the dim, uncertain lights you saw when you first arrived, but brilliant points of warmth and beauty, pulsing in strong, steady rhythms, their combined glow sufficient to bathe the entire village in soft, welcoming radiance. The stars form patterns now, constellations that seem to tell stories, to contain within their arrangements narratives of heroism and transformation and the triumph of hope over despair. The villagers have gathered in the central square, standing around the great tree in whose hollow the Dreamcaller makes their home. They have been waiting for your return, understanding somehow that the restoration was successful, that their world has been saved. As you approach, led by the Dreamcaller, the villagers begin to sing. It is the Griffin's song they sing, or a version of it adapted for human voices. And though their rendition is simpler than the cosmic harmony produced by the Guardian itself, it is no less beautiful, no less heartfelt. You walk through the village and the villagers reach out as you pass, not to grab or restrain but simply to touch lightly, to make brief contact, to acknowledge your presence and your deed. Children press flowers into your hands, blooms that glow softly in the darkness, their petals warm to the touch. Elders bow their heads in respect, their eyes shining with grateful tears. Young adults smile and whisper words of thanks in voices too soft to fully hear, but whose meaning is unmistakable. The Dreamcaller leads you to the base of the great tree and gestures for you to sit. The moment you do, weariness crashes over you like a wave. The exhaustion that had been held at bay by necessity and adrenaline now demands recognition, and you find yourself struggling to keep your eyes open. But this is right, this is good. You have completed your task. The Griffin sleeps peacefully in its restored nest. The song flows strong and true through all the realms of dream. Whisperwind is secure, Starhaven is safe, and you are allowed now to rest. The Dreamcaller kneels beside you, and their ancient eyes are kind as they speak words you hear only dimly, consciousness already beginning to fade. They are telling you that you can let go now, that you can surrender to the sleep that calls so insistently. They are promising that when you wake, you will be in your own bed, in your own world, but that you will carry with you everything you have gained here, the memories, the understanding, the fragment of the Griffin's song that has become part of your spirit. All of these will remain with you, gifts that cannot be lost or taken away. The last thing you see before sleep claims you completely is the sky above Starhaven, brilliant with renewed stars, pulsing in perfect rhythm with a song that will play on forever, guiding dreams, maintaining the delicate balance between waking and sleeping, keeping safe the boundaries between nightmare and peace. You wake slowly, consciousness returning in gentle stages rather than all at once. For a long moment you lie still, eyes closed, not quite ready to face whatever world you have awakened into. But gradually, awareness seeps in. You can feel the familiar texture of your own sheets beneath you, can smell the known scents of your own room, can hear the ordinary sounds of your own life carrying on around you. You are home, returned to the waking world, no longer travelling through the impossible landscapes of the Dreaming Vale. But something is different. You feel different. There is a calm within you that was not there before, a centeredness that seems to come from somewhere deep in your core, rather than being the product of external circumstances. And when you focus on this feeling, tracing it to its source, you realise what it is. The fragment of the Griffin's song, the gift the ancient Guardian gave you, is still there, still present, resonating quietly within your spirit. It was not a dream, not a fantasy conjured by your sleeping mind. It was real as dreams can be, which is to say more real than many things that exist in the waking world. You carry with you the memory of your journey, the floating islands and pools of memory water, the grove of chiming trees and the hall of echoing dreams, the 3 harmonies you gathered and brought to the Griffin's nest, the companions who aided you, the Lyrebird with its fragments of melody, the Moonmoth with its guiding light, the Sable Fawn with its ability to reveal hidden paths, the moment of restoration when the song returned and the shadows dissolved and the Griffin opened its infinite eyes to acknowledge what you had done. All of this remains with you, clear and distinct, more vivid than most of your other memories despite its dreamlike nature. And you understand with a certainty that requires no external confirmation, that you can return to these memories whenever you need them. In moments of stress, you can recall the harmony of stillness and feel its peace settling over you. When you are confused or lost, you can remember the harmony of memory and be reminded of your connection to the long chain of cause and effect. When despair threatens, you can draw upon the harmony of hope and feel its warm light pushing back the darkness. You rise from your bed and go about your day, but you carry Whisperwind with you now. The griffin's song plays on, beneath the threshold of normal hearing but always present, a foundation note upon which all other experiences rest. You find that you sleep more peacefully now, that your dreams are more coherent, more memorable, more useful. The nightmares that used to plague you have lost their power, unable to gain purchase in a mind that has faced true darkness and emerged victorious. In Whisperwind itself, life continues in the way it has for ages uncounted. The villagers of Starhaven go about their quiet business, tending their gardens and their flocks, crafting their goods, living in harmony with the strange and beautiful land they call home. The Dreamcaller maintains their vigil, watching over the boundaries between dream and waking, ready to respond if crisis should arise again, though hoping such intervention will never again be necessary. The Lyrebird returns to its grove, singing fragments of the restored song to any who will listen. The Moonmoth drifts through the Dreaming Vale, its light guiding lost dreamers back to safe paths. The Sable Fawn bounds across meadows of impossible beauty, ready to lead anyone who truly needs its help along the hidden dream paths that connect one part of the realm to another. And deep within its nest of silver branches, the Slumbering Griffin sleeps on. Its rest is peaceful now, untroubled by confusion or shadows. Its dreams flow freely, shaping and maintaining the structures through which all dreams must pass. The song that emerges from its sleeping mind is strong and clear, resonating throughout Whisperwind and beyond, reaching into every corner of every world where creatures close their eyes and surrender to sleep. The stars above Whisperwind pulse with renewed vigour, their light warm and steady. The streams flow with enthusiasm through the valleys. The grass grows soft and luminous in the meadows. The chiming trees sing their endless melodies. Everything is as it should be, the balance restored, the harmony maintained. The centennial crisis has passed, and though another will inevitably come in 100 years' time, there is no worry about that now. The present is secure and the future will be faced when it arrives, with the same courage and determination that saw this crisis resolved. Whisperwind sleeps soundly, wrapped in the protective embrace of the griffin's song. And in your heart, wherever you are in whatever world you inhabit, you sleep soundly too, carrying with you always the gift the griffin gave you, a fragment of eternal harmony, a piece of the song that will never fade, a connection to a realm where dreams are born and nightmares are held at bay and all who rest can do so in peace. The griffin's song now lives quietly within you, a lullaby that plays on beneath the surface of consciousness, guiding you toward rest, toward peace, toward the gentle embrace of healthy sleep. It will be with you tonight as you drift off, and tomorrow night and every night for the rest of your life. A gift from an ancient guardian to a brave soul who ventured into impossible realms and restored what had been broken. Sleep well, dear dreamer. The griffin watches over you now, and the song plays on forever, keeping you safe through all the long nights ahead. May your dreams be peaceful, your rest profound, and your waking filled with the quiet joy that comes from knowing you have touched something timeless and been forever changed by that contact. And as you drift into deeper sleep, surrounded by the familiar comfort of your own bed and your own life, you can almost hear it, that distant celestial hum, the griffin's song resonating through the fabric of dream itself, a lullaby older than time, gentler than starlight, more enduring than the turning of the cosmos. Rest now. The quest is complete. The song plays on, and all is well in the realms of dream. If you enjoyed this journey into the Dreaming Vale and the restoration of the griffin's song, I'd love to hear about it. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Sleepy Sorcerer Stories for more immersive bedtime tales that will carry you gently into the land of dreams. Let me know in the comments what other realms you'd like to explore together, what other guardians might need our help, what other songs might need to be restored. Your suggestions help shape the stories we tell and the worlds we visit. Until next time, sleep peacefully, dream vividly, and remember, somewhere in the spaces between waking and sleeping, Whisperwind waits, the Griffin song plays on, and your spirit carries within it a fragment of eternal harmony that will guide you safely through all the nights to come. Sweet dreams, dear adventurers, sweet dreams.